Hello, pleasure people. We are the Pleasure Program. My name is Holly.
I'm Victoria.
We are two licensed therapists specializing in sex therapy, here to share our knowledge and answer your questions around all things related to a healthy and pleasurable sex life. Tonight we are answering one of our viewers' emails sent in. One of our viewers named Steve. And just so you are all aware, we have Steve's permission to use his first name and to share his email with you all. We're going to read his email, and he has a question for us around his sexual preference for large breasts. And we may redact a word or sentence here or there, or alter some terminology, just to make sure that what we're reading is safe for YouTube. YouTube will flag our videos if we use certain words or phrases. Hi guys, my name is Steve and I just discovered your YouTube channel a few days ago and I really find the topics interesting. I feel like in this field there is a lot of unknowns and it's embarrassing to ask these questions. So I just want to thank you guys for what you do and keep up the good work. My question relates to having preferences, but where is that line where it goes over the line? I'm a 25-year-old healthy male, and I would consider myself above average in terms of sex drive. Every morning, I wake up with an erection, and I masturbate at least 2 times a day. Not sure if that's too much. My issue is I think I'm developing an addiction to larger breasts. I subscribe to a website. It's a website that specializes in women with overly large breasts, with videos and photos, and I really enjoy going on the site and masturbating to them daily. I find the women beautiful and they pleasure me easily. However, I'm finding in my personal life I tend to only lean towards women with large breasts, and when I'm with women with smaller breasts, I find myself difficult to get an erection, or even get one at all and perform. Whereas with larger breasts, I don't even have to think, an erection just happens. I don't like this, and it's getting worse with time. I want to give everyone a chance with being a partner, and I don't like how I feel, like I'm wired this way. What would you recommend? Should I cancel the porn site? Is there any way to reverse engineer this and change my preferences? Thanks, Steve. First of all, thanks, Steve, for your email and for the positive feedback, the encouraging words at the beginning of your email. Certainly, it's a hope that we are able to inform and educate people through our YouTube channel. It can feel really vulnerable and intimidating to reach out to a sex therapist or seek help in that kind of way. So we hope that certainly we're proponents of sex therapy, as we both are sex therapists, but we hope that through our work here in the channel, we are able to reach people who could benefit from this information. So it means a lot to hear that kind of encouragement. There's actually like quite a bit in his email, right? His biggest question is, what should he do? Should he continue to go on this site? Can he reverse engineer or rewire his brain in some way so that this isn't, I guess, as strong of a preference for him? It sounds like he's just feeling like it's starting to become very like a niche for him, and then it's getting in the way of him finding women with smaller breasts arousing.
Yeah, and I think it's really sweet that he mentioned basically wanting to give anyone a chance. Right, like not judge them based on their breast size, and I think it's a sweet intention here.
It's a sweet intention. Also, I was like, well, Steve, we don't want to just give everyone a chance. It is okay to be selective and to have some criteria here, but we get what you're saying. You're not wanting this to be like one of those criteria, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess, right? Like you find the love of your life, but she is on the smaller side.
She's
That's
an
kind
A
of a
cup.
bummer. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so we certainly want to answer your question, and hopefully we can share some information in our video that will get you on, the right path for yourself.
Yeah. So first, Steve, we want to start out by saying that preferences are really common and really normal. one way that we can understand them is to think about them through the concept of arousal templates. So an arousal template is basically like a map, we can think of it. And it's a map of like what we find to be a turn on. And this begins to develop in early childhood and continues on as you age. It's influenced by genetics, individual experience, cultural influences, and even trauma, right? So it's really unique to the individual. And some people, they seek out treatment because they find their sexual preference or their arousal template to be unsettling, weird, problematic in some way, and they wanted to change it or make it go away. So first, really normal that you're having these preferences, and also actually fairly normal for maybe you to question them and maybe want to seek treatment around them.
It's also believed that arousal templates tend to be fairly rigid, that once you develop those preferences and tendencies of what you find attractive, that tends to kind of stick around. I mean, our brains are neuroplastic. We can, evolve new interests or expand on interests, but it's believed to be trickier to subtract a sexual preference, which is, if you were to seek treatment in order to address a problem or a discomfort you're having with your sexual preferences, the most ethical approach that therapists would take would to be to help you work on accepting and embracing those parts of yourself, granted that they are consensual, that they're legal, and that they're not causing harm to yourself or anybody else.
Example of that, maybe not being so ethical treatment, would be conversion therapy, right? That's definitely an unethical approach to trying to change someone's sexual preference.
And it's not effective, right? For obvious reasons. It's not something that one can change. So Steve mentions that he prefers this one website that displays women with large breasts, and he's concerned if he should maybe quit using that website. So we're going to talk a little bit about pornography use here. So there's some theories here that pornography use and what one is observing through pornography really is just revealing preferences that already pre-existed. It's just sort of like coming to the surface, and you're becoming aware of these preferences. And there are others that theorize that pornography use can influence and impact your preferences, so create new ones. And so it's kind of unclear. We need more research in this area, really. And we will link a video below. We recently just responded to another viewer's email that was about penile fractures and the impact pornography use might have played in such an injury. And so we actually explore some research that discusses how pornography use might impact sexual attitudes or behaviors, and we'll link that below if you want to check that one out.
There's also mention of potentially having a sexual addiction. In the therapy world, this is a controversial topic. Technically, there's not a diagnosis for sexual addiction, but there is research to suggest that this can happen for some individuals, and many people are out there that feel that their subjective experience does in fact resonate with an addiction. We've mentioned this a little bit, talking about pornography addiction along with sexual addiction. So we have a couple of live streams there that you can dive into that we can link below, but here are some warning signs that you could be experiencing a porn addiction. The first is erectile dysfunction and difficulty getting an erection. I know that was kind of mentioned in the email write-up, and that don't jump to that means I have a sexual addiction or a porn addiction. It's also normal to not get an erection in response to something that you just generally don't find attractive in your arousal template. Doesn't automatically mean that you have an addiction, but it is a warning sign. And then along with that, right, if you're spending more time like seeking pornography that just seems just right, you're binging it, just waiting for satisfaction that's just around the corner, right? Rapidly viewing various content, maybe having multiple tabs open. These are all signs of a potential addiction. or needing your content that you're viewing to escalate in some sort of way to kind of achieve the same level of arousal that you were getting before. So this could be looking for something more shocking or more taboo to kind of get that reaction. Or, if you're finding that this is impacting your functioning, meaning, like, are you viewing porn to the extent that it's disrupting your day? Is it getting in the way of your job, your, like, social plans, your relationships, right? Like, these are all big signs of just something to be mindful of.
What if Steve's preference is, in fact, a relish? And I'm using the word relish here because there's an F word that rhymes with relish that YouTube does not like that we say. So if we say the F word that rhymes with relish, we will get flagged. So we're going to say relish, and you're hopefully going to know what we mean. So what if this is a relish?
Well, I think one way that we might know that is if this is absolutely necessary, like this aspect of a preference is absolutely necessary to achieve sexual arousal or gratification. This could include fantasy. So even if you need at least the fantasy of it to achieve that, then that could be a sign that this is a relish, right? So if maybe you can engage with women that are of smaller size, but you can't engage with them unless you're fantasizing about it, it might be a relish.
And if that's the case, if you were to seek treatment or therapy for your relish, the therapist would be considering if you have a relishistic disorder. And it just sounds kind of ridiculous to say, but that criteria is a little bit more defined in that it would have to be a non-living object or non-genital body part that you have arousal towards, desire for, and that's a requirement for sexual gratification. So in this case, large breasts would meet that criteria. And in addition to that, this relish would have to be causing some sort of psychological distress or impacting your ability to function for you to meet the criteria for the disorder. But just because somebody has a relish doesn't mean they have a disorder. It's also just sometimes preferences become requirements for sexual arousal and gratification. And again, treatment would involve kind of practicing some acceptance around that and kind of working with that. And what would that look like for your life moving forward and for partner sex? And so it's something to consider. And if it's not a requirement, if you're able to achieve arousal, orgasm without this specific, needing to have larger breasts, then it's really just a preference.
And even if it's not just a preference and it is a relish, that's okay. Relish isn't a bad word. It's not bad. Inherently bad doesn't mean anything. There's lots of people out there with relishes, right? So if you hear that, like, oh my gosh, I have a relish, what's wrong with me? Like, no, that's also fairly normal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, YouTube, get on board with relish. Why are we making it out to be a bad thing?
Sexual shame and stigma for no reason.
For no reason. Also, Steve mentions his masturbation. What was that?
It's Frank.
Oh my gosh, that just scared me.
It's Frank. Sorry.
Frank,
he just wants to be
Frank,
pet.
that was a very scraggly meow. I know, Frank. He just, makes this comment in his email like he believes he's healthy 25-year-old male, with an above average sex drive and masturbates twice a day. It sounds like he's masturbating twice a day along with viewing this particular type of pornography. But he's not sure if that's too much. So just want to speak to that for a moment here. Similar to what we mentioned with both your porn use and even whether or not there's a relish here, it's going to sound repetitive, but is your masturbation causing you any problems? Is it getting in the way of your ability to function in your day? Is it getting in the way of your job or social plans? Is it causing you any harm in any way? There have been individuals we've worked with and that have their masturbation has caused, physical harm to them or injury. So those are some of the things to ask yourself if you're wondering, is this normal for me? Certainly just masturbating twice a day, if it's not causing you any sort of harm or negative consequence, then there really isn't a problem there. Nothing to be worried about. You masturbate twice a day, it's working for you, not getting in the way at all. No reason to change. Final thoughts for Steve here. He doesn't really like that he feels he's wired this way. He's wondering if he should cancel the website subscription. He sounds like he'd like to be different, right? He would like to maybe not have such a strong preference for large breasts. So what are your kind of overall thoughts for him?
Overall, I honestly think that he should try to lean in to the preference rather than try to fight it. I feel fighting it is just going to reinforce any shame that's already there and do more harm than good. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having preferences. Everybody has preferences, and it's okay. And I appreciate that he's wanting to give everybody a chance, but there's lots of people out there, lots of great women with large breasts that he could explore connections with.
There's a world of large breasts out there.
Yeah, exactly. And just try to learn how to accept himself for himself rather than shame and try to change.
I think too, for him, I'd ask you, Steve, think about your whole view on your sexual preferences, because I would imagine it goes beyond large breasts. What other physical attributes do you find attractive? Yeah. What other just qualities in a person do you find attractive? You're 25 years old. What is, at this phase in your life, what does all of this mean for you? What direction do you want to move in? Yeah. And, are you viewing other pornography that has some other variety to it? Are you sometimes masturbating without pornography use and you're just using your imagination? Or maybe you're reflecting back on some fun memories you have. You're more than just this preference for large breasts. I think remember to just see beyond that as well, and remember that there's more to you than that, and try to see yourself and your sexual partners holistically. Well, Steve, thanks for your email. We hope that the information in this video is helpful to you. And if anyone else would like to send us an email with their questions, we'd love to hear from you. We will link it in the description box. And we'll see you in the next one.